Camilla told the king his entire world was bollocks. To his face, repeatedly. That's the claim, and it comes from Tom Quinn, writing in the Times, citing a member of palace staff. The alleged quote, "Can't we get away from all this protocol? It's all bollocks." Not once, regularly. Said to the man who had waited 73 years for the throne, in the period when that throne was finally, actually arriving. And according to the same account, Charles, a man famously, almost comically averse to foul language, didn't argue. He didn't correct her. He gave her 5 words back. "You're doing it for me, darling." She turns 79 today. Now hold both halves of that in your head, because together they tell you something the palace has never quite been able to say out loud. The most controversial consort in modern British history, the woman a significant chunk of this country has never forgiven, the person who spent 30 years being told she wasn't wanted, reportedly didn't want it either. Let me be straight about the sourcing before we go further, because it matters. This is a royal author citing an unnamed staffer recounting private conversations. Nobody has confirmed it. Buckingham Palace doesn't comment on this kind of thing and never has. Treat it as a claim, not a fact. But here's why the claim is worth taking seriously rather than dismissing. It fits. It fits everything else anyone has ever credibly reported about this woman, going back 50 years, and that's a rarer thing in royal coverage than you'd think. Go back to the beginning. Penny Junor, in her biography of Camilla, wrote something that has aged into one of the most quietly revealing lines in modern royal writing. Describing what Camilla actually wanted from life, Junor put it like this: "She wanted no more from life than to be happily married to an upper-class man and live a sociable life in the country, with horses, dogs, children, and someone to look after them all and do the hard graft." Read that list. Horses, dogs, children, the country, someone to help with the work. There is no throne in that sentence. There's no crown, no state banquet, no Westminster Abbey, no place on the currency. It's a description of a comfortable, private, unremarkable aristocratic life. The kind of life a few thousand British people already have, and nobody writes books about. And here's the part that reframes the whole story. Junor argues that Camilla's total indifference to Charles's position is precisely what he fell for, not despite it, because of it. Describing their first meeting at a polo match, Junor writes, "He loved the fact that she smiled with her eyes as well as her mouth, and laughed at the same silly things as he did. He also liked that she was so natural and easy and friendly, not in any way overawed by him, not fawning or sycophantic." In short, he was very taken with her, and after that first meeting he began ringing her up. Not overawed, not fawning, not sycophantic. Think about what that means for a man in his position. Charles has spent his entire life, every single day of it, from birth, surrounded by people who behave differently in his presence. Courtiers, staff, politicians, strangers at engagements. Every conversation slightly bent by the fact of who he is. And then a woman at a polo match laughed at something stupid and didn't care. Junor goes further, describing what made the bond hold. She treated him like a normal person, as she had when they were together, and if ever he behaved badly or was selfish or thoughtless, she wasn't afraid to tell him so. She was a proper friend. If ever he behaved badly, she wasn't afraid to tell him so. That is the single rarest commodity in the life of a monarch. Not loyalty. He has plenty of that. It's contractual. Honesty. Someone who will tell the future king of England he's being an idiot. There is, structurally, almost nobody in that building who can do that. And it explains, better than any tabloid theory about scheming or manipulation, why this relationship survived 30 years of being the most hated relationship in Britain. So when the story surfaces that she called the whole apparatus bollocks, that's not out of character. That's the most in-character thing anyone has ever reported about her.
And Charles's alleged answer is the part I keep circling back to. "You're doing it for me, darling." Not, "It's your duty." Not, "The country expects it." Not, "This is what the institution requires." He didn't reach for any of the language the monarchy has spent 1,000 years perfecting for exactly this moment. He said, "Do it for me." Because he knew, if this account is true, he knew perfectly well that she wasn't doing it for Britain. She wasn't doing it for the crown. She was doing it because he asked. That's the whole transaction, stated plainly by the king himself in 5 words. Now, let's talk about the cling film holder, because it sounds like a joke and it isn't. Last year, for her birthday, Charles gave his wife, the Queen of the United Kingdom, a cling film holder. A cling film holder, with a plaque attached, engraved with the phrase, cling film, keeping nuclear submarines at sea. That's a reference to her honorary title of Vice Admiral of the United Kingdom, given in recognition of her long support for the Royal Navy. It's an in-joke. It's the kind of gift you give someone when the entire premise of the relationship is that neither of you takes any of this seriously.
And her reported reaction, "There's nothing more useful. Brilliant. How wonderful." Penny Junor again on her personality. She always has a twinkle in her eye and is a terrible giggler, often reducing Charles to fits of giggles too. The King of England and the Queen, giggling over a cling film holder engraved with a submarine joke. That's the private version. That's what the protocol she called Bollocks is wrapped around. And now, here's where the story turns, and where the birthday warmth runs out. Because whatever Camilla did or didn't want in 2022, she has it now. And the position she reportedly never sought is currently the least secure senior position in the entire royal family, and it's getting less secure by the month. Start with the family she married into. Tom Quinn's account notes something that's been reported for years and never really softened. William and Harry took a very long time to warm to their stepmother, and referred to her by a string of unkind nicknames. That's the polite version. Harry has been considerably blunter in public. He's implied, in a televised interview, that Camilla traded negative stories about him to the British press to rehabilitate her own image, and has been quoted describing her as dangerous. And William? Royal commentator Angela Levin has claimed something genuinely striking about where he's drawn the line. In her words, William has made it clear that Camilla is the wife of his father, but not a step-grandmother to his children. That George, Charlotte, and Louis have grown up understanding they have 2 grandfathers and 1 grandmother. Sit with that. 21 years of marriage, coronation, crown, title. And by that account, she is not, in the household of the future king, considered a grandmother to his children. Then look at what's actually happened over the past 3 years, decision by decision. The moment William inherited the Duchy of Cornwall in September 2022, the $1.2 billion estate that generates roughly $21 million a year in private income, one of the changes people noticed was Annabel Elliot, Camilla's own sister, disappearing from the Duchy payroll. She'd worked across Duchy properties as an interior designer under Charles for nearly 2 decades. Then William took over, and the name stopped appearing. No public dispute, no statement, just gone, replaced by people from William's own circle. Then, December of last year, state banquet at Windsor for the German president. Kate walked in wearing the Oriental circlet tiara, 2,600 diamonds and rubies, commissioned by Prince Albert for Queen Victoria in 1853, and a piece Kate had never worn publicly before. Commentators called it historic. According to reporting from Radar Online, Camilla was furious, viewing it as an attempt to steal the spotlight. The same insider claimed she'd been telling courtiers that Kate and William are positioning themselves with a lot of authority, almost as if Buckingham Palace were theirs. Then, June of this year, Peter Philip's wedding. According to IB Times UK, a dispute over whether the bride could borrow a tiara from the royal collection escalated into Camilla allegedly accusing William of treating his own father's reign as merely a formality. An insider described the atmosphere. You could cut the tension between William and Camilla with a knife. 2 tiara flashpoints in 6 months, a sister removed from a payroll, a future king who reportedly doesn't consider her a grandmother, and then the detail that ties it all together with almost unbearable neatness. Inside the newly renovated Buckingham Palace, 3 historic rooms in the North Wing are being turned into something called the Consort's Library, a space honoring Prince Albert, Queen Alexandra, the late Prince Philip, and Camilla. Her name permanently in the most famous building in Britain. And she will never live there, because in the same set of announcements this month, the keeper of the Privy Purse confirmed that Charles and Camilla will not move into Buckingham Palace at all, ever. After a $369 million decade-long renovation funded by British taxpayers, the king has decided to stay at Clarence House for the rest of his reign, the first British monarch since Victoria in 1837 not to make the palace a home.
So, a library with her name on it, in a palace she won't live in, which will one day be William's working headquarters. That's not a metaphor I've constructed. That's just the arrangement. And here's the thing nobody in that building will say out loud, but which everyone in it understands. Camilla's entire position, her home, her staff, her access, her standing, currently rests on one thing: Charles being alive. He's 77. He's 2 years into cancer treatment he's never fully described publicly. And the day his reign ends, every protection she has stops being a right and starts being William's discretion. Clarence House isn't automatically hers. The property she moves through as a matter of course, Sandringham, Balmoral, the whole infrastructure of a reigning queen consort, passed to William. The staff she employs serve at the pleasure of an institution that will then be run by a man who, by multiple accounts, has spent 3 years methodically removing her people from positions he controls. She won't be queen. She'll be Queen Dowager, living in whatever arrangement the new king decides is appropriate, at the discretion of the man who grew up watching what she did to his mother. So let me put the whole thing together, because this is what makes today's birthday story stranger than it looks. If Tom Quinn's account is accurate, Camilla walked into this reluctantly. She called the protocol bollocks. She told her husband repeatedly that she didn't want it. He didn't argue with her. He just asked her to do it for him, and she did. And in exchange for that favor to a man she's loved for 50 years, she got a crown, a coronation, a library with her name on it, and a position that evaporates the moment he dies, in a family where the future king reportedly won't let his children call her grandmother. Here's my honest read. I don't think Camilla is the villain of this story, and I don't think she's the hero either. I think she's something more uncomfortable than both. A woman who got exactly what everyone accused her of wanting, and, if these accounts are true, didn't especially want it. The great scheming social climber of 30 years of tabloid mythology reportedly spent the run-up to her coronation asking her husband if they could please skip the whole thing. And the cruelest part isn't the hostility or the nicknames or the tiara arguments. It's the arithmetic. Because the one thing that could have made all of it worth it, a permanent, secure, unassailable place in this family, is the one thing the crown was never going to give her. William's decisions have made that clear, quietly, one payroll and one tiara at a time. Charles said, "You're doing it for me, darling." And that turns out to have been exactly, literally true. She did it for him. Not for the country, not for the institution, not for herself. And when he's gone, that's all it will have been for. She's 79 today. The cling film holder is presumably still in a drawer somewhere at Clarence House. And in a palace across town, in 3 rooms in the North Wing, they're building a library with her name on it, in a building she'll never sleep in a monarchy that's already being handed to someone else. Whether she ever wanted any of it is a question only she can answer. But if the reporting is right, she gave a 3-word verdict on the whole business years ago, and nobody's produced a good argument against it since.